bringing your family's money and work stories into your relationship, and so is he, and they can clash hard. Welcome back to Moxie Movement. As promised, I said we'd be doing a series with Jonny, and he's back to chat with us today about our different origins, different backgrounds, and we're going to talk a little bit about how that shows up and how we navigated it, because we've been doing this for a long time. We've blended really, really different backgrounds in all aspects. We come from literally the opposite side of the world. You come from England, I come from New Zealand. You grew up in a family where mum and dad worked. Mm-hmm. I grew up on a big farm, first and foremost, and then for parents that had their own businesses. I went to boarding school, you did not.
Normal school.
Yeah.
I worked in a university.
University degree. Yeah. And I did a university degree while I worked a full-time job.
We're quite similar in that way.
In that way, both of our parents are still married.
Yes.
Still together. So how we blended those two completely different cultures, family, belief structures, I guess, and completely different upbringings into running a life and a business together, because obviously all of our businesses are co-owned by both of us, even though we front them slightly differently. When we first met, we met out here in Thailand. What were your money stories like at that point?
I think when you have your money stories, you think everyone's got the same story.
Yes, you do.
Until you meet somebody else that's quite different about it. And I know my upbringing was, what's the word for it? Careful. So well budgeted. There was, we didn't miss out. We certainly weren't like the wealthy family. We were not the poor family. There was always food in the fridge. There was always the stuff we could do. We could still go to all the sports days as far as I could understand it. All these things happened. There wasn't the massive presence when you compared to other people. There wasn't the overarching huge holidays. We would drive to a holiday. You didn't fly anywhere, those kind of things. And as I grew older, I learned more about one of my grandparents and the fact that basically, that's my dad's dad, should we say, was not very good with money. Poor habits. Without getting into too much detail, that might have been the gambling, drinking, whichever. Anyway, was not doing that because my dad told me stories about when he was studying at university up in Newcastle, Sunderland way, and he would get a phone call saying, please, he was one of 4 kids. He was the second oldest. And he would then hitchhike all the way down to London to pay off some of the bailiffs and the debts, because his mum would call him because dad wasn't there and there was debts to pay. So he told me about that. So he had to do things like that. So I think his upbringing then came to the way he brought our family up was not going to put us through that. So it was always very well calculated. There was always a budget. Things were set out. We didn't take high risks, and things were carefully budgeted for in that way that you're not going to take a risk. Right, this is coming in, that's going out. We save for that. We use that money for that. There's no credit card, deal with it later, which of course implies a risk that a lot of people do it, but there's still a risk that for some reason you might not have at the end. So I think in the way that was meant to train me to be very careful with money, probably went the other way because I grew up in an environment that was so wonderfully secure that, as I say, it wasn't outlandish by any means. We had all the basics though, which is wonderfully secure if you spend a bit of time with a lot of different people. It's a privilege. And I think basically because I had that secure background, I was willing to take risks. So I'm the one of the family that goes, I'm just going to leave my job. I'm going to fly around the world and I'll go and just see what happens. And there'll be a job when I get back. I'm sure I'll make it work. So when you get that background, it makes you take more risks.
You had this great certainty that you would always figure it out. You were like, I can get a job anywhere.
2 feet. You're always going to land on it.
From when I met you, there was always this certainty of I'll figure it out. And if I need to go and make money, I can get a job here or I can get a job there. Like you didn't have
and I'd be happy to do any work. Yes. Not being picky. I know certain people are in certain careers and they say, there aren't any jobs out there in your chosen career that you want to do, that you're trained for. But have you got a driving license? Good, you can drive a car. So you can do deliveries. If the job isn't too skill specific in another area in addition to the driving, if it's just a driving job for delivering, everyone can do that if you can drive a car.
There's no ego around money.
Cleaning jobs. Yeah. I got part-time jobs at libraries because I didn't feel I was earning enough in my main job working at the university. So I went and got a job at a library. So I was restocking books, and people were like, "Well, that's way lower in their ways that were a real basic job." It's like, yeah, it pays.
So I think that's interesting because when you get into business, I think people end up with this kind of glamorous view. This glamorous view of business comes out of when the economy's good. Mm-hmm. Everyone's putting business owners and business ownership up on a pedestal when economies are booming, when interest rates are low, anyone can do it. It's the same as you see in real estate, right? Everybody becomes a real estate agent when real estate's booming because there's so many houses buying and selling. But when times are tough, the people that are actually really good at that particular industry survive through it regardless. And the people that aren't actually very good and we're just riding on the coattails of a really good economy don't last. And it's the same in any business. Some people get into business with, I'm going to be the big boss, I'm going to have the big job, and I'm in charge, and just going to tell everyone what to do. You never brought that to business though because of your belief of I can always figure it out. There's always enough money. There's just had a real security about yourself when it came to money, whereas I worried a lot more about money.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's interesting because I look at it at a glance and go like, oh, you're happy taking risks and you're not fussed about the money, which is interesting really, but you're right. We're almost opposite in those kind of ways. Happy to take the risk.
But I still worry about it.
I still worry. It's different on a lower scale, though. I think I'd say a lower scale. When you're young, single, when you fall flat on your ass, you just get back up again. You don't have to go, are you okay? Are you okay? Am I hungry? Cool. I've got some food, got a drink, then you move on. And I think that's why it
changes.
Yeah, it changes. You get into business and then you start worrying about the money a little bit more and about the risk.
People you're responsible for.
That's it. That's when you have got your family. It might be the daughter, it might be the wife, it might be the team. It's whatever it is. But you've got this whole. You're now the umbrella.
Yeah.
You're the protector of that.
Yeah, I think that's really important.
Do you have the same mindset, bearing in mind that you're one of 4 girls?
Yeah.
And you're all brought up in the same household?
Yes.
We can say with the same parents. That's weird when it comes to psychology, that every parent is different to every child. There's obviously a mindset to money that your parents had, you were all brought up in. Do you feel that all 4 of you have the same mindset towards money?
No, absolutely not. No. I think this is so fascinating, and we're parent to just 1 child, so we've not been able to experiment with this, I guess, in our own household. You're one of 2. I'm one of 4. I grew up, my parents had 4 girls under 4.5. I've said that before. Grew up on farms, mum and dad. So we were similar in that respect. We never wanted for anything. We got to do all the school activities. We got to do anything. I don't really remember there being anything that was no until I got to like 8 or 9. And at that point, I realized that my parents had a set of rules for how they were raising us. And one of the rules was, what I do for one, I do for all 4. And it was the first time I ever realized that money or our ability to spend on things wasn't infinite.
It's not unlimited, is it?
Yeah, it's not unlimited. You know, as a kid, like, never wanted for anything. Yeah, all the things. Mum made our clothes. God, she made us a school uniform. We started school. When I went to school, I just wore normal clothes. When my second sister started, Mum decided it was a nightmare trying to dress kids, and so she made us a school uniform, and all 4 of us had to wear it. And then the school adopted it. Can you imagine being those kids that made the school oh my goodness. Anyway, she also used to make us our clothes, and so she'd buy a bulk of fabric and dress us all in the same outfit. So I grew up in that kind of household. We were on a farm, we milked a cow, we had
resourceful.
It was very resourceful. You could there was abundance of everything you needed to live, but there wasn't abundance of cash. And if anybody's come from a farming background, they know that they're very asset rich, often resource rich, but not often money rich. I was about 8 or 9 and I really wanted to ride horses. And it was the first time ever that I'd come up against this kind of, well, if we do it for you, we have to be able to do it for all 4 girls. And so we'd had free ponies up until the point we were talking about these horses the other day. That we picked up these free ponies, Shetland ponies, that had been passed around the district. And we would have picked Oscar up. There's a little black Shetland pony, and we picked him up, brought him back on the back of the Hilux ute. Honestly, and he was the naughtiest little pony, figured out how to get you off when he had enough. We'd always had ponies and we had fun, but I really wanted to ride. I wanted to go to pony club camp. I wanted to go hunting, do things like that. And so if I wanted a horse, I had to buy it myself. This was the point at which it went from we had everything we need to the rules were if you wanted something, you had to make the money for yourself. This is the point at which we started getting entrepreneurial. Instead of getting jobs at that age, my parents were like, hey, the next door neighbour's cutting down the pine trees. Let's go pick up all the pine cones and we'll sell them down the local service station, the petrol station for starting fires in the winter. And, you know, if you shovel the sheep shit out from underneath the wool shed, you can sell those. That was the thing there. I'll be honest, I'm not even sure I know exactly what all 3 of my sisters' money mindsets are. I have one sister who works for a big corporate, has done pretty much since she came out of university, but has been in and out of business, but has got the same job she's always had. And I've got two other sisters who have been in business, out of business, in business. I couldn't actually tell you with great certainty what their mindsets were, but I know I did have a level of scarcity mindset in those earlier ages. And then I shifted to a just getting by mindset. We'll always figure it out. And I'm happy to take risks. And I'm definitely the spender in the relationship and you're the saver.
Yeah. That with everyone we talk to, we find there's always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm actually really grateful that Scarlett takes after you. She's a saver too. She's so squeaky. Like getting money out of that kid is like.
You think I'm squeaky?
You're the saver and I'm the spender for sure. So.
Which is a great combination. If you've got two of the same, I think that's when you get really unstuck.
Yeah. So I don't mind taking risks. I think that's really interesting. But I worry more about the money than I think you do. I think it has shifted over the years. In the early days, even when it was just us, I was the one that would stress more about money. And I do think there is an inherent difference between women and men there, and it's a security thing. Remember we put that first $1,000 in the bank account and we just left it there and it was like, don't touch that.
So good.
That's the abundance base.
I think it's the controller of the money. So you think when I still remember when we had the business in Thailand we had, and there was about basically I was controlling all the money. I was working out what was coming in, what was going out, and basically dealing with all. And you were literally you were part of the business, but you didn't have really the grip on it. And I remember you saying at the time, this is fine. When we go to New Zealand, we run a business there, I'll be in charge of the money. You were quite clear with that. And then when we ended up running a business in New Zealand, it actually went that way. It happened and migrated that way to the point where I was running the operational side of it. And I think when you're not fully aware of every in, every out, when it's paid, all the rest of it, you don't have the same worry and the same point. It's not front and forward. When you sit down and go, right, need to look at this. But if you're so engaged and busy with something else and you're not, whereas if your role is, majority of the time is that side of it, you're literally being reminded every few minutes, right, that needs to be paid, that's coming in, and that's unearned income, something needs to go over here, or this is separate to that, and then I've got a big bill here.
And I think I also took on the advertising, the marketing, and the sales role. And then the numbers, payroll, like the system stuff. And when we started in the early days, there was no system to this. I had a degree in accounting. I'd worked for an accounting firm for 3 years. Numbers that come easily to me. I knew my way around back when it was MYB. That was really, really easy. But there's no real system. So there's no simple way for me to share it with you. We didn't have meetings. We didn't sit down and go, here's the profit and loss from last month. Here's what's working. Here's what's not.
Yeah.
We just freaking winged it. Like we winged it for a long while. Do not recommend. So you can get those systems solidly down. Like you think about where we would be if we'd had those systems down from the start, and maybe we wouldn't have had the same lessons, but you get the gist, right? I do think there's a level of certainty that comes when there's money in the bank, and the more that we've managed to do that over the years, and then COVID really rammed it home for us because we thought we had plenty in the bank.
Hugely,
and we recognised. We had never anticipated the risk of no one being able to move around. Like our entire tourism business required people to travel.
Even before that happened, there was so much trust involved with the 20th of the month following.
Yes.
That when you've got a client which is, they must have been close to 9% of turnover, 10% of turnover.
Yeah, across the big players, they were about 15 to 20%, and
of all the big players. Yeah. So when you've got that much on one company, and you have the expectation, everyone does the right thing, right? You pay the bill, and if you can't pay it on the 20th, you make a phone call and you go, "I'm really sorry, it's just going to be a couple of days late." You don't expect to be hanging out for weeks, and it went on and on and on. And I think that's when you realise, just wait a minute, if I've got a little buffer in the bank, and you're right, it was the Dave Ramsey 1000. There was just the absolute turner. 1,000. Most businesses, 1,000 really isn't going to save anything. But having 1,000 in the bank just for the washing machine, fixing the car, the emergency.
It was the fluctuating nature of our business because, and it still is, it's still a very seasonal business. Lots of cash in the summer, very little cash, and lots of outgoings in the winter.
Most outgoings are exactly when it's the least.
Yeah. And life still happened, right? The washing machine would break down, or the car would break down, or something would happen that you needed to spend a lot of money. And it very rarely happened in the summertime. It always happened in the winter. So I think
there's a law for that, isn't there?
Yeah, it's been interesting. And so I shifted to just getting by. Things always figured themselves out, and there was always just enough to get by. It never really felt really abundant until we got through 2018, 2019, 2020. It was really 2021, 2022, where it's like, oh, we've turned a corner, we're banking cash, things are feeling better. And we move forward and make decisions now with much more certainty than we ever did before. And we're at a stage now in our money stories as a couple where that's going to shift again. We joke and we talk about this, like, what's the boat sold? I'll earn it. He has to grow it. We're going to shift again from
Don't have to.
choose to grow it. It's been this constant shift and play where I'm good with numbers. I can figure them out really quickly, but you're far more detailed and focused. I really like Jonny's gentle and feels safe and secure when you leave your money with Jonny, whereas I'm like, oh, we could do. And so
Sparkly.
literally sparkly. I'm not a business person, but I see opportunities for us to have great experiences or to do something in the business or to learn something new or to go somewhere. And I just go, oh, we'll figure it out. And we always do. It just, when Jonny's managing the finances, that is more
So calculated is not the word, actually. It's always calculated. It's, yeah, maybe smooth. We'll go smooth. I like smooth.
I don't think I had bad money stories. I got taught a lot about money. I got taught that money was an exchange of value. I got taught that really, really young. It wasn't about exchanging your time for hours. I was never taught that.
Talking through this is the fact that we have different money stories, but realizing we have different money stories even being brought up. If even in the same household, you get different money stories, or most likely, because you've not sat down and had the conversation with your sisters, just like I've not had the conversation with my sister about the way I have an imagination, and I think I know what her story would be, but we all know what imaginations I'm thinking are. I think what is a valuable tool is having this discussion. Because how many years in were we before you started to observe, oh, you do that, oh, you react like that, oh, I react like that, rather than actually thinking, right, how do we look at this? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, and I think it all came back to what's the big game plan? What's the big vision? Because you can live day by day, week by week, month by month very easily. When you're running your own business, if you need more money, you go out and make it. That's why we're good at what we do. You're solution seekers. You're always looking for more opportunities. So you don't ever go, oh, yes, we've all been here. We've all had the money spirals. We're like, oh God, next week we're going to be homeless and not be able to feed our family. Like, that's your mind playing tricks on you. The reality is, for most of us, even during COVID, we had those conversations. But when we actually sat down and talked about it, like, worst case scenario, we've got so many options. And you're thinking week by week, month by month. When you stop and think about, like, where did we want to be when Scarlett was 10? Where did we want to be when Scarlett was 20? What do we want our relationship to look like with her? What do we want her money stories to look like, her relationship with money to look like? When we started looking forward into the future, that's when things started to shift, because all of a sudden we weren't just going, oh, what's the next holiday? What's the next experience? Now we're looking in a bigger picture of what are we trying to cultivate here? What is important to each of us, and how do we make that happen financially?
Yep.
Where did our money stories collide early on in our relationship?
Maybe your comfort in the amount of money you'd borrow?
I wonder if it's less money stories and more risk capacity.
Yeah, I think you're right. And that when I'm trying to word it in my mind, because that's the first thing I came to, it's like, right, you're comfortable, but that's a lot of money to owe. Whereas in my head, you buy a house, okay, that's coming from the UK, it's bricks and mortar. Most countries, banks are really happy with that.
Yes.
And there is stability. And yes, okay, property will go up and down, and there's changes. But generally speaking, borrowing against an asset that most people feel is established and agree on that asset, I was fine with. Never really came up on that. Whereas borrowing money on something that is not such an agreed asset, I suppose that's where your tolerance for risk in that area was much higher than my tolerance for risk.
Yeah, and the banking system's got us sorted, right? The reason that houses hold their values in most of our Western societies is because banks bank them. Banks could choose to bank anything. Banks could decide to bank chairs or bank businesses. Shock horror, the thing that makes the world go round is actually jobs and income-creating assets, which is what businesses are. Yet the banks set them as incredibly high risk, and so they don't bank them, so that it's hard to get capital on them. But what house do you know brings in $200,000 or $300,000 or $500,000 of profit after tax? And there is, you know, it have to be a big house you're renting out to bring in that much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw things differently because I saw, here's how much sales it brings in and here's what's left after we've paid all the bills and here's how we can make this work. I saw it differently, and I think it's a little bit like taking a student loan to get a degree in the hope that it pays off down the track. It's just right? But it's exactly what people are doing with student loans. They're borrowing money to get an education in the hope that when they leave and they get a job, that it will pay itself off.
They are worth more.
Yeah. The difference being when you buy a business is it's already got a generated level of income, it's got a generated level of profit, and your job is to go in there and not stuff it up and in fact make it better.
Right.
Yeah. That really came down to my belief in you and I that we could just do it. We would figure it out. We'd be good at this business. We'd have fun doing it. It was a cool business.
It was an experienced business in the first place. That's it.
On the water,
Which ticked our boxes.
Yeah, ticked all our boxes as a lifestyle choice. I'll just see how this is going to work for us. Yes, I have a greater capacity for risk than you. We also have really different natural energies. When we talk about natural energies, this is a really nice match. I'm really high, new ideas, great starter, don't often see the risk, always see the positive in things. I'm really like my dad in this way. Love new ideas, love new concepts, get bored really quickly. So we use a tool called the contribution compass, and I'm a catalyst. Jonny is not quite the complete opposite of that, but he sits on the other side of that, where he's what we call a connector, where he is very much a grounded energy. He likes to check in and ask questions and check the risk, and have we got the right people around us, and are we connected to the right people? And so it's complementary energies. That's really great in business, so long as you figure out how to navigate it, because it can feel a little bit like Jonny's pissing on my fireworks. Like, I've got this really great new idea, and we should go and do this then. And he's like,
and we just got sorted, and she's going on to something else.
And he's flipping at all the things that he's like, oh my God, where is she going now? What is she going to do now? And once we figured out how to navigate that together, it's really powerful. Because if you're like me, you need someone who goes, and have you thought, that's a great idea, Sarah, and have you thought about? You also need someone who's going to finish your shit. Because I just start lots of things and then walk away from them. We have a team around us that do that as well.
Probably getting better at starting less.
I've got better at starting. I have got better at starting this. If we went really early on, you were happy to get to the bones of your ass before you worried about anything. When we first met, you would spend all your cash, go to the end of your credit card to get home, and then start working.
Yeah.
Pick up again, like that.
I think I regularly got down to my last £100.
Yeah,
which is probably the same as your last 400, as in the last 400 that I can get my hands on from somewhere, whether that be a credit card or whatever, and fly back to the UK, earn some more money, and come back in again. Yeah. That was when it was just me, though.
Yeah. So I found that deeply uncomfortable. That really clashed for me. How can you let it get that low? Back then, I got worse over the years. I had more cash in my bank all the time, at all times. We first met. When we got to business, were there any culture shock moments we had around work or risk? It's a long time.
It's been 2 decades.
It's a
I was
long
about to say,
time.
when I think about that, to try and define a moment when I go, that's really not, I don't agree with that, but to be like, whoa, I wasn't even expecting that as an option. It's always just trying, I can't really think. It throws me off.
We were both workers. We'd both been brought up to be workers. And so there was never I'm working harder than you. We were often working differently.
Yeah, I mean, we both earn our own money. Even living at home,
Yeah.
I actually had a part-time job, started a pay around, I think, age 11. Not that anybody employed me, because that would have been illegal. But yeah, and you were the same. You were selling your cones, pine cones, things like that from a very young age. So I suppose.
Freudian slip. I thought you were going to say I was selling cones from a young age.
Yeah, selling cones. That would not be. I did kind of clarify those kind of pine cones. So yeah, we've both got the same work ethic on that side of it.
That made it easier. I think we both had some tourism experience. We both had some hospitality experience. The business that we went into together was really complementary for both of us.
Yep.
You love to figure things out. Whenever there's a problem, Jonny is very calm under pressure and just figures stuff out. Outwardly. I know inside that might not be the case. But
Yeah, I suppose outwardly.
And,
Yeah.
and being the skipper and
Yeah.
some big disasters. And you would just slowly work your way through it to figure
Ask questions.
out.
Give me some time to work a solution out. I just need 10 seconds. Everyone quiet.
Yeah, I used to send crew off to do all sorts of strange things. I don't think there were any major culture shocks.
I can't think of any culture shocks. There's some differences like your tolerance for risk.
I think we talked a lot about the future and what we would build. And even though we weren't really deliberate about putting it down on paper and we can do this and we can do that.
Both enjoyed at the time work that was outdoors, doing stuff. It was diving, it was kayaking. That's why the boat worked so well. It was all that. It was people, it was energy. It's showing, like seeing the joy from other people, getting energy from doing something new, exciting. So certainly at that time.
When do you think we decided, right, let's get really clear what our life will look like and what we want our money to look like? When did we finally do that?
It was after COVID.
Oh, you think? Okay.
Or maybe it's the fact that was like the Band-Aid that got ripped off and it was kind of a complete reset.
I think we've got more deliberate since COVID. For sure.
Is the word forced to? We've been encouraged to, due to certain different things, to be more deliberate about it. So before COVID, we basically went, right, this is what we want to do. We'll build the business up and we want to live this lifestyle. I think when it all came crashing down and all the stress was on and we didn't really know what was happening and the rest of it. And then when you literally have the opportunity at that point, we're at ground zero, we've wiped it all away, we're starting again. Right, okay. Let's be really deliberate now. And we had a lot more conversations. So maybe I feel we'd talked about stuff and the direction we wanted to go to and how we wanted to live our lives. And that was all pretty good. When it came back to this point, it was like, right, we're going to have to work hard at this now. So we definitely go in the right direction and we would check in then and have more conversations about, is this leading towards this?
Yeah. I think for me, we had some conversations when Scarlett was young, like baby, like we finally we were like, actually, we can't do this in rented digs, we need a house. So I think one of the first things we did was buy a house when Scarlett was 12, 13
Actually,
months.
To interrupt here, it was even before Scarlett because we basically said, right, we're happy cruising along in Thailand. This is going well. If we're going to have a kid or when we choose to have a kid, we'll do it in New Zealand. At the time, we thought of all the 3 different options of the countries we could have lived and worked in. That was the best place to bring a child up. So you're right, actually. We'd already started to go, where do we want to be in the steps?
We had the conversations, I think we've just got clearer and clearer. There's some key things that happened for me. We had Scarlett and we got into the restaurant. And for me anyway, we built that big monster that I was deeply unhappy for a long time trying to navigate it. There were some awesome moments. There's some great moments. We met incredible people. There's some really cool stuff.
Some of the people on the team, fantastic.
I don't know that I'd ever want to give the lessons back. I wish I could have had them more gently. But certainly that journey through that time, like I really had to start thinking about, because I felt like I'd built a monster at that point. And then 2018, when we finally exited that. So I think 2016, 17, we'd had some pretty hard conversations about the hours that I was working, how I was giving my time away to everyone else but our family.
Yep.
And then the exit of the restaurant followed pretty closely 12 months later by your diagnosis. I mean, you broke a lot of bones in those next 12 months. Like you had, the day we exited the restaurant, in hindsight, you had like 14 broken bones.
Yeah, it was unbeknownst to us. I had a broken back and nearly a dozen fractures over the eight ribs on one side. Every time I'm like, oh, geez, I feel dizzy and hitting the deck and then getting back up again. I've got this. It's just a broken rib. It's fine.
You got your diagnosis 12 months later.
Yeah, that was the August 2019. Yeah.
And then there was quite a period of time there where I really lost hope because everyone kept telling us, you just go home and live with it. You just go home and live with it. And the more we read about it, the more I really know that it's not.
It wasn't what we planned for an active, lifestyle full of experiences.
And that's when we put the boat up for sale. Like we want something different. And then 2020, obviously, then COVID happened. And so from then, like you said, that clean slate. What are you actually going to build? Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? And we were waiting for certain things to fall into place. I had this. It's going to go in this order. This plan. Do you feel like that? And then all of a sudden we went, it doesn't have to go in that order. We can get this outcome without the things stacking out behind it. And I think that clarity, that the outcome needs to be really clear. What do we want to build long term needs to be really, really clear. But how you're going to get there may not evolve exactly as the plan is. And your job is to be resilient and adaptable around the planet. That's been the shift since 2020 to 2025 for us. How did we, or when did we stop playing by the rules that we got from our parents, and when did we start playing by our own?
Age 12.
It's really interesting because there are still some rules that my parents had that I still play by, that we still play by collectively. Having a child of your own makes you sit down and go, what worked great and what gave a great outcome and what didn't. And so we kind of sifted and sorted at that point with Scarlett about what we wanted to keep and what we didn't want to keep. And then we've kept checking in and evolving. I think becoming parents was the point at which we really got really deliberate about looking at what were we still holding on to from our parents. But I also came into our marriage with a very clear, this is how it's going to be. This is how I'm going to show up as a woman. That was not how my mum and dad had been, their relationship. I love my parents and they're still married and they still build businesses together and they still do all that stuff together. But there were some things in that relationship that I was like, I'm not doing. And I was really upfront about those. And I still have lots of the stuff that they did so freaking awesomely well that we still apply now to Scarlett. Like the wants and needs is a perfect example.
Yeah. The job of the parents is not, and you realise this, not talking about your parents and my parents, it's our jobs going forward. It's not to make them do or encourage them to do exactly what you've done. Like, we know all the answers, which I think we all know we don't. But it is, you can still basically put over the best you can get, and then it's your job as you grow up to go and take, that's good. Yep. And just pick and choose from those elements. You're not meant to be a copy of. It's interesting.
So when was it for you? Because I feel like your life's quite different, whereas I've had quite a similar journey to my parents in the business side of things.
I've always been so different though, and I think that's maybe the challenge my folks would have with me, because the way I've approached going through, I mean, I grew up, did the school thing, thought I was going to go to uni, flunked, didn't go to university, got a job at a university actually, and basically started working it that way through. But that was that job. Okay, cool, you've got a monthly income, you're working now, you're working through. And I still remember the day when I went, oh, I'm getting out of here. That was when I was speaking to somebody at the time. She would have been 50 at the time, 53 maybe, so at my age now, and I was 24 and I was just moving up to like low management, not really middle management, low to mid management, and went, she's next. Like, that's the job. When she retires, if I haven't got it before, that's the job I'll be going for. My folks could understand that. That's what you do. You've got a job, you have an income, and then I stopped all that and went traveling and took a one-way ticket to Southeast Asia, and everything changed. And I think I'd always had a slight entrepreneurial mind. Let's say a true entrepreneur. To an entrepreneur right now as an adult, they'll think it's not much. For me, I was always selling toys, finding ways to, I bought this and I'd sell that, and I'd buy this and I'd sell that. I was brought up where basically you talk about needs and wants, had all my needs. The wants was I bought, that's why I got a paper round early and started earning money. And then when I've earned that money and I've got these, I can now sell these for that. That's great. And I suppose that was it, started at that point. So I started early on, if you're comparing it to my parents, but then that's, but that was
generation.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
And all those sorts of things. Biggest win for us in terms of our money stories, and what do you think's been the key thing that makes it work now?
Communication. Biggest win, one that's making some work is the communication, absolutely, that you basically, you're agreed on what the goal is, and every time we make decisions or we act in a certain way, you try to communicate what that is. But the biggest win, it's really weird because when I go back and I think about the lessons we've learned and gone, they were really valuable. Don't want to do any of them again.
They've been really valuable. Let's not repeat them.
Let's not repeat them,
Over and over again. Keep coming until it's learned.
That's what my engineer told me, what Kim said on the boat though. He said, I made a lot of stupid mistakes. He said, yeah, but you only make them once. Biggest win. Oh, that's a tough one. We decided 2 weeks into June last year, wasn't it? That's the weird thing, because we never intended at that point. I feel now like we moved to Thailand and it's been so fluid in the way that basically we moved here and we were going to stay here when it wasn't. You had those work trips and we'd we turned them into little holidays. So we'd gone to Bali and did about a month there, and we did some wicked things like out of Bali and Borneo and the rest of it. And then we did in Hawaii, and we'd done a little bit there, and that was cool. And then we decided to come to Thailand, and that was going to be 3 months, and that was just to basically have a reset with a view to, at some point, then moving on to whether it be South America or whichever.
South America at that point.
Exactly, and I think
we'll still go.
absolutely will. But I think it was probably about 2 weeks into being here, and I can't remember how it panned out because we both hit it at the same time and went. I don't think we even sat down and discussed it. We just it seemed to migrate from we're here for 3 months to I think we're staying.
Why are we going back?
Why are we going back? And I can't think of the day it happened, the conversation that happened. It just seemed to naturally evolve into it to go, this is where we're meant to be, and this is what we're meant to be doing.
For me, it was the point at which I had in my head that we'd been saying we were going to do this South America trip. And so our travel overseas had to be South America. Yeah. And I kept saying we can't go all the way to South America till the boat's sold because getting back from South America to New Zealand is not easy versus from here to New Zealand is easy, right, with the boat. And then it was like, well, it doesn't have to be South America right now. And the boat runs really well, surprisingly well, without us in the country.
Probably runs better.
And this tick box that I thought we had to do, which was sell the boat before we could leave, we've now managed. We didn't have to, what would leaving look like, and this is what it's looked like, and it's been really great. It's been great for your health. It's been great for all of our mental well-being. Scarlett's thriving from an education point of view and growing into a self point of view.
That reviewing more regularly is the way to do it. So you're right, we had a plan, right? This has to happen before that happens.
Yeah.
Then once that's happened, that means we can do this and then we can do that. And I think the fact that basically we made one of those steps and then just reviewed it as it was going, rather than going, well, no, that's the plan. We just changed it. Yeah. You've got to be dynamic on that point.
This is about designing your shared vision. If you're going to choose to do life with someone, and we got married, and I always say now, I don't think now, 43
if you would,
months, I wouldn't have got married. Once we had Scarlett together, we were going to do life. We were going to do some version of life together, that we were a couple or we were going to be co-parents together. We had to do life together. And so for me, that shared vision of what each of us wants for ourselves as individuals, what we want as a couple and what we need as a family, the clearer we've been on that, and then that checking in on it really often.
Because it can change.
Oh God, it changes, and it changes really quickly. And we figured out what your diagnosis actually meant, worst case scenario. All of a sudden, everything that we thought mattered disappeared very, very quickly. Yeah. And you go, okay, what actually matters is what are the moments that we're going to remember as a family? What are the things that we need to have done as a family if worst case scenario plans out? I remember being really jealous of my friend, Denise. So she got hit by a truck in 2021. She won't remember this. When she came home from the hospital, and she's like, I saw my life flash before my eyes, and she was like, if I'm done, I'm good. I've got no regrets. And I remember at that point, like, shit. Oh my God, I'm jealous of my best mate who's literally just been hit by a truck. But she's got to that point in her life where she's like, I've done what I need to do, and now's my time. I've got no regrets. And I was like, I want to go to bed every night like that. That I lived everything to the fullest. I've built those relationships to the fullest. And I think this shift for us has really enabled us to do that now, right? Like we go to bed. And so getting really clear with your life partner, if you have one, or with your family, if you're you've got kids and things, and how your business serves that is really important, because the business needs to be the vehicle that drives that, not the one that steals from that.
Yeah, really, and that's been a huge change for us.
And I think sitting down and us getting clear on what we want and then getting it together ensures that Jonny's not living Sarah's life and Sarah's not living Jonny's life. We're living our life. And that shared vision is the bit that makes all the difference on your journey with your life and business partner. Regardless of whether you do business together, you still have to have this shared vision. You have to have our vision.
Yep, and be ready to keep changing it.
And and
update, change.
Be okay with how it unfolds. It doesn't have to unfold exactly the way you thought it would. Till next time, stay moxie.